Phil Iverson here. The following video has to do with furniture design and construction. I'm a woodworker and a furniture maker. Nowadays, people buy a piece of furniture oftentimes from a photograph, either in a magazine or perhaps online. They see a nice looking piece of furniture and they make their order. A few days later, that furniture magically shows up on their front doorstep, and that's it. Oftentimes these pieces of furniture last 5-6 years. It seems like 10 years is a long time for a piece of furniture these days to last in someone's home. Sooner or later, they put it to the thrift shop or to the back alley, and that's pretty much it. But up until a couple hundred years ago, for a new piece of furniture, someone would go to a neighborhood furniture maker, oftentimes a woodworker, and they'd have a meeting with the actual maker, and they'd discuss what the furniture they're thinking of having made, what the purpose of that furniture would be, what types of models are available for that, what the furniture would be made of, usually what types of wood, a price would be agreed upon, and the furniture maker would go to work, and usually within a month's time, the people would have their new furniture. Now, this piece of furniture many times would go through a number of generations. It would first go to the children, then it would go to the grandchildren. From there, barring any catastrophe to the structure of the furniture itself, it may go further than that. Eventually, it may end up in some type of secondhand store. But true enough, times do change, and these are modern times. But things really have lost a step in regards to furniture making. Anyway, enjoy the video. A simple coffee table. One of the most basic items of the living room. What could be simpler than a coffee table? You set drinks on it, set it before you on the sofa. You put your feet on it when you're watching a movie. What makes a good coffee table? My name's Phil Iverson. I'm a woodworker. I built this coffee table. It's one of many coffee tables I've made in my life. I particularly like this one. I used 3 different woods. The walnut legs, the leopard wood apron. We call this stretcher here an apron. And the top is made from ash. It's not an overly large table, very convenient in that 2 people can actually eat from this table, and yet at the same time it doesn't take up too much space. When you have a large coffee table, for one thing, if your living room isn't that big, it tends to take up a little bit too much room. Also, you have to walk around the table. It's a small inconvenience. And oftentimes, the real drawback of a very large coffee table is it's not necessary in the living room. People don't use a table that size as readily as they would this. Of course, this varies with personal preference, and if you have a very large family, if you've got 3 people sitting sitting at on the sofa, then in that case, a larger coffee table may actually be a plus. But I find this to be just the right size, very convenient. They take about a week for me to make when I add all things together. The making of the legs and the apron, the top, putting it together, and also the finish. Finishing is quite a chore in itself. The table has to be sanded. I sand it down to a 400 grit sandpaper, and then I put at least 5 coats of finish on a table like this. I do use the Sam Maloof finish. It's been labeled that Sam Maloof, a very, very famous woodworker in the United States. He was mostly famous for his rocking chairs, which are phenomenal. But he sort of popularized a finish that was 1/3 boiled linseed oil, 1/3 polyurethane, and 1/3 varnish. And the coats actually go on very, very thin, and the final result's very nice. When I make a piece of furniture like this, the very first thing I do is, with a pencil and a piece of paper, is sketch a rough idea of it. I know in these modern times people use various drawing programs, but I just use a pencil and a piece of paper as they did centuries ago. From the rough sketch that I made, I then make patterns of, for a table, especially for a table like this, I make patterns of the legs, and the aprons, or the stretcher parts. This apron holds together the 2 legs. And then, of course, there's the top. But I make, the pattern is where the rubber really meets the road. While I'm a very mediocre artist, I do feel as though I am a very good furniture pattern maker. And it's very, very much the same thing as if you were to make an article of clothing, a dress, for example. You would perhaps sketch it out, then you would make a person would make a pattern. From there, they cut the cloth, or I cut the wood. Now, as Sam Maloof, again, a famous furniture maker, would do, he cuts the piece of furniture out, then he flattens the edge or with a shaper, or in my case I use either a router bit or actually just go on a disc sander. From there, I round the edges over, again on a router, make my joinery. On this table I use dowels, very strong. By the way, a dowel is incredibly strong a tool if it's used properly. You can use anything. Mortise and tenon will work fine with this. And then join them together. I'll make the top, sand it, and then put the finish on. Early on in my woodworking career, I was unsure as to what type of style that I'd like to pursue in furniture making. And I am a furniture maker rather than a building woodworker or an instrument maker. Although I have certainly worked on buildings before, but there are so many different styles of woodworking. And I was going down the street here in Chicago in Lincoln Park, and we have a woodworker here. His name is Barry Neustadt, and he had a little teeny shop in the very heart of Lincoln Park. And when I went past his little storefront there, I looked in the window and he had the most beautiful modern type of furniture. With the legs had been shaped in this fashion, and different shapes like this. This table, the feeling that I tried to create was, it's as though the table were grown from seed in the woods or in a forest. That a little seed started and the table just grew from seed. It's not a very, there are no real straight lines to the furniture, and it gives what we call a sort of organic look. Organic, for lack of a better word. But I have come to enjoy this style of furniture very much. And there's several details to the furniture. For example, the overhang on this table right here. The overhang, if I were to put these legs out to the end of the table, it would make the table feel much bigger than needs be. Also, when you walk past the furniture, your feet clear the furniture a little bit easier. But this is the type of furniture that I wound up making, this organic furniture. And I believe Sam Malouf, a very famous furniture maker, he has this very same style, sort of furniture that a hobbit might enjoy in his home. A coffee table, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. I've done what I could to make a beautiful coffee table. Very shapely legs, a very beautiful top, and an apron or stretcher that holds the legs together. It's funny that the old furniture makers, the woodworkers, the craftsmen of wood from long ago, they were very inventive people, and they were constantly thinking about women while they were at work. So they called the legs because that's what they look like. And indeed, that's the function that they serve. And the piece that spans across them, they called an apron. I just find it's comical that they name a woman's garment for a piece of a furniture